What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the Christian Witch Podcast. I'm your host, Chosen, also known as at Christian Witch HTX over on Instagram and TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitter, it's at Christian Witch X. You can find all of those links on my brand new website, ChristianWitchHTX.com. You can book readings with me. I'm a certified professional psychic medium, healer, light worker. I have an academy called the Elysium Academy of Mystical Arts, where I train people in witchcraft, healing, and psychic development. You can find all that information over on the website. Today, I'm really excited to be recording this episode. You may remember my co-host today from some previous episodes. Life kind of got crazy and it's been a minute, but here we are, and I'm excited she's going to be joining us. So Lux, why don't you say hi?
Hi everyone, I'm Lux with Lux Intuitive Therapy, Intuitive Therapy by Lux. Over on my podcast, The Joy of Metaphysics. It's on YouTube, Spotify, also Apple. I own a business. I'm a professional psychic medium as well. I'm also a metaphysical practitioner with a bachelor's degree in ordination from IMM, which is the International Metaphysical Ministries. And I'm also a past life regressionist. So, Chosen, thanks so much for having me on again. It has been a minute. I've missed us. I've missed this. I missed our energies. So,
just a certified rock star over here.
Right.
You're just killing it. We're going to be talking about some fun, but deep, interesting stuff. So buckle up. We're covering mental health and spirituality. And also, I'm going to be interviewing Lux in another episode in the podcast for this season. So definitely check that out. But yeah, I guess let's roll the the introduction ad and then we'll come back. Alrighty, you guys. So in today's episode, we wanted to talk about mental health and spirituality. Do they meet? Do they not meet? Are they influenced? Are they separate? What's going on? And I'm just going to defer to my brilliant, intellectually powerhoused individual friend, Lux here. I'm just kidding. Our intellectual ability is out the window today, guys. So just bear with us. We're getting through it. But when we talk about mental health and all that, and wanting to talk about that and spirituality, what comes to your mind?
With mental health and spirituality, the thing that seems to be in the collective consciousness right now is mental health in terms of the spiritual community. And a lot of talk of spiritual psychosis, how to handle the basic things that come along with healing. Like, we're going to go through depressive episodes, we're going to go through anxiety, and our life is going to be upended when we begin to walk the spiritual path, when we start to align ourselves with our highest good. If up until this point we haven't been doing it, then it stands to reason that our lives are not going to be on the path to our highest good. So there's going to have to be some realigning, some redirecting, and a lot of the times it brings the Tower card to mind. A lot of the times it's not comfortable, it's not painful, and things have to come down that weren't built on a solid foundation in order to realign ourselves and get back on the right path. So with that, it's not always a comfortable time. This is kind of like the part of spirituality that is the work part, it's the healing part, and it's, old friends falling away, change of job, change of scenery.
Yeah.
And as human beings, most of the time, we're pretty conservative in the fact that we don't want things to change in our lives.
Absolutely. Nobody wants to be uncomfortable.
Right. So those things can be kind of painful and uncomfortable, but understanding that, that's what's going on versus, okay, maybe I need to go talk to a psychiatrist about things, and understanding, the differences, understanding what spiritual psychosis is, and making sure we're not falling into that trap, or, allowing ourselves to be run away with big spiritual truths and axioms, but yet not understanding them, and falling into these 7 spiritual traps that we're going to talk about a little bit later in the podcast, so we can kind of understand things to do and things to kind of stay away from in order to avoid spiritual psychosis. And then we're going to talk about how ADHD, OCD, how all of these things kind of interconnect and work with spirituality. And I think, Chosen, what do you have on that?
I just you're talking, I'm just yes. Anytime that we are choosing to level up, anytime that we are choosing to to better ourselves, like you should expect to be uncomfortable. You should get really comfortable being uncomfortable because if you're comfortable, nothing's changing, and that means nothing can get better. You're also going to have to work through some things that you haven't worked through. Like that's what's holding you back. And so, you were talking about how, oh my goodness, what were you saying? Oh my goodness, one second, you guys. It was 333. um, I forgot what I was saying, but anyways, yeah, so just being uncomfortable, things shifting, things happening. Um, you have to understand that everything is energy. Everything that we do is energy, and everything we experience is energy. And so some of that stuff can get stuck inside of us. And if we don't process it out, it manifests as different things. It can be heartache, it can be, negative patterns, traits, things like that. And yeah, I think that another thing to talk about is, you guys, I have no idea what, like, my mind went blank with what I was saying. I told you our biorhythms are off, our intellectual one is just non-existent today. But anyways, yeah, I just think it's important that um, when we look at spirituality, we're always moving upwards and higher, onward and upwards. Um, and we have to detox some things, okay? It's like every time what you don't know is that you are agreeing. You are saying, "Okay, spirit, okay, universe, I want to level up. I want to go deeper. I want to grow." And that is saying, "Okay, here we go. Let's bring in all the lessons that I signed up for to get me to where I need to be." Because up until this point, you've been putting them off, or maybe it wasn't time for you to go through them yet. Whatever it may be, like I just think it's important to look at how some of these situations can cause us to be depressed. It can cause us to have anxiety. We can go through things, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we're actually dealing with clinical versions of those things, and we cannot prescribe or diagnose. Like, I can't say that enough. We cannot prescribe or diagnose. However, some of these things can be linked and misdiagnosed or mislabeled, let's use that word, um, as behavioral health issues. And really what's going on is that we're feeling for the first time, or maybe it's just the way it's manifesting because it's all this energy from the trauma we have stored in our body. Um, I think that it is extremely important that we don't rule out authentic behavioral health and the need for managing it and like actual diagnosis or anything like that. But I do think a lot of what we go through is, we're quick to say, oh, we're depressed. We're quick to say, oh, we have anxiety. I'm not saying that you don't, because honestly, you're probably feeling a lot. You probably are feeling it. But it could also be uncontrolled empathic ability. It can be uncontrolled, um, psychic mediumistic empathic abilities, spirituality. You can be attracting things as you kind of like awaken in your spirituality. You begin to, like, your flame begins to like glow brighter. You begin to draw attention from all sorts of all sorts of things in the spirit realm. And not all of them are like loving and healing. Most of them will leave you alone, but there may be times where maybe something does want to feed off of you. And we're not going to necessarily dive into hauntings or paranormal issues today, but like also understand that that's also a reality. You could be going through something. It's not necessarily that you are depressed, it's that you are being attacked or oppressed by something else. So, anyways, that's my rambles. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting things, and there's also a lot of traps and false ideologies we get stuck in trying to sort through all this. So yeah, I mean, I think what were there, seven of the spiritual traps?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't even know like where to start with that. I'm just gonna let you run.
Okay. So the first one I want to start with, the first spiritual trap for those taking notes is
If
it's
you are, I'm
called
sorry, I rambled in circles.
it's called spiritual narcissism. It's also known as ego tripping. So what this is an inflated sense of self-worth because of one's spirituality. And it's accompanied by a feeling of being superior to other people or looking down on others who are not on the same spiritual journey as yourself. Honestly, understood and experienced all of these for a brief period of time. And what I found is the most important thing to do when walking the spiritual path is to never do it in a vacuum. Always have either a spiritual authority, someone who's sympathetic to the type of spirituality or the type of spiritual path that you're walking. It could be a mentor, it could be a counselor, a pastor, a holistic psychiatrist or psychologist. It doesn't even have to be a holistic psychologist. It could be just a really good a therapist, someone that you can kind of talk to, someone who's
Mm-hmm.
up to date with your mental state, and someone who can hold you accountable and say, okay, we're veering a little bit too far off the track, or that's not entirely accurate, and kind of hold you accountable in that way. But I feel like we all go through the spiritual narcissism phase. I feel like it's kind of when you first start walking this path, you start to feel that way, like almost in spiritual infancy. Like you start to get a little bit of spirituality underneath you. You start to kind of understand a little bit of the mystery, a
Mm.
little bit of the secret of the universe. You start to get contact with, your higher self, your higher power. Um, and as multifaceted human beings, and we fluctuate between our higher self and our ego self quite often, especially in those infancy days of spirituality and our spiritual awakening. And so, with that, we can we can come narcissistic in the fact that we see other people or the mundane people or mundane life. We see people amongst us who aren't necessarily walking a spiritual path, and we know that everybody's walking a spiritual path at the end of the day. Just because someone isn't going to God the way that you think that they ought to be, or the path that you're walking, and that's the whole point of understanding spiritual narcissism, is understanding that everyone is going to God, whether or not it looks like they are or not. So that's kind of how we beat back on that. And another symptom of spiritual narcissism is almost like shoving your form of spirituality down another person's throat, or
Mm.
understanding, like say you've come across this great spiritual truth and you just learned it last week because you read a book by Eckhart Tolle or something like that, okay, and you're like, oh
Mm-hmm.
my god, this is amazing, I have to share it with everyone. Well, family doesn't always want to hear that, or
Yeah.
friends don't always want to hear that, but your therapist will. And so
Yeah.
tell them,
Friends and family sometimes aren't in the place where they have the capacity to hear it.
Exactly. And it's
Yeah.
humbling yourself enough to, and that's, the opposite of narcissism, is putting yourself in their shoes, and like, you know, are they in a position to where they want to even hear about God or spirituality or
Mm-hmm.
this or that? And the last thing we want to do is start like, I guess, like calling people on their behavior when they're not in a place to hear that. And it's like, I call it like taking another person's inventory. Like,
Mm.
because I've spotted all of these things in myself and I've began my healing journey, I'm going to just start calling you out for all of these things. And
Yeah.
there's a time and a place to do that. And what can happen, and this kind of goes into the next one, but I'm going to give you a chance to like
Yeah.
weigh in on that before we move on to the next one. But what can happen is if someone comes to us with issues or problems that they're going through, and we immediately, since we're spiritual now, right?
Oh,
We've
so
got the
spiritual.
spirituality. We think we are now a counselor or a therapist, and we lay aside the sister.
Yeah.
We lay aside the sister card, or we lay aside, being a brother or a parent or a friend even, and we immediately put on our therapist hat, and we start, pushing onto them all of our beliefs and our ideas, and totally, and that's the next one, spiritual bypassing what the person is going through right now. And it's totally, it's almost like, if I can use the word, it's like a perversion of what the spiritual path is kind of supposed to be. If you guys catch my drift, we're supposed to be empathetic. So, you know, spiritual narcissism is not understanding the time and the place to be empathetic and just be that shoulder for someone to cry on and be that listening ear, and then turning into like a therapist, a counselor, or a minister, and starting to, it's kind of finding the balance,
Yeah.
and releasing self righteousness, and understanding that just because you know the solution to the problem, you know how to fix the problem, you know you can spot it in them. Like I know exactly what your defect is, and it needs to be totally dealt with, and you need to do these things and go here. And if you just know this spiritual truth, and
Yeah.
all of this stuff, um, versus just let me be silent with this person and let me listen to them and be empathetic with them and sit with them and
Yeah.
ask them. And to me, this is what helped me move past spiritual narcissism. Whenever I had anyone come to me, because as you start developing your empathic ability, people will start to come to you, just like energy and other dimensions will start to bug you. People will start to bug you, and so
Yeah.
people will come to you, and it's crucially important that we understand how to use our empathic ability appropriately and avoid spiritual narcissism. So the thing that helped me the most is when someone would come to me and lay out all of their crap on me. Before I said anything at all, I would ask them when they're done, I would say, would you like feedback?
That was so refreshing when we became friends, hearing you, like when you would say that to me,
Yes.
I'd be like, yeah, no, like of course I want your feedback. But like that was just a mind-blowing concept that you would even ask. And it's so
Yes.
healthy.
Absolutely, because consent for me, obviously consent is everything, but like consent in the verbal space is also everything. Also, because some people just they just want to release that energy, and they know either subconsciously or consciously that you are a transmuter of energy. That's part of being an empath. So,
Oh,
God, I believe that God is sending these people to us to for healing, and a lot of the times we as empaths we got to overkill it. Oh, we got to tell them all this information and we got to heal them and we got to do all this. No, you don't. A lot of the times we just have to sit there with them, and it takes place on a subconscious level. A lot of the times you don't have to even say anything at all, and those
yeah.
people will get up and say, wow, I don't know why I just told you all that, but I feel a lot better, thank you. You don't
That
even need.
happens to me all the freaking
Yeah, it
time.
happens to me all the time too. And it like in that moment, it wasn't a time and a place for me to then lecture that person. They're
Yeah.
not looking for a lecture. They're not looking for feedback. They're
Yeah.
looking to just leave that energy with you. And you, as a child of God, as I believe I'm a servant of God, it is my duty to then grab that energy and transmute it. And it's not always my duty to intellectually bore them with all of these
Yeah.
spiritual concepts that I've learned. And even though they're true and they have helped me, it's not the time and the place, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're saying so many things. I'm just like, yes. I'm making like little notes here, you guys, because like I don't know what it is today. Like I'm really in brain dead. I know actually I know what it is. It's the
Yeah,
biorhythms.
it is.
But
It totally is.
but like I'm making notes and you're talking about everything that I'm like writing down as we go. To the point where I just like stopped. But if you hear me shuffling around, that's what's going on. But yeah, you're talking about um like all this stuff and I'm sitting here like I even wrote you don't always have to have an answer for people.
Yeah.
And like I think what happens and I think it starts off innocent. Like no one like just goes into like spiritual narcissism and is like, I
Right.
can't wait to be a narcissist.
No, you don't
Um,
realize it's an
yeah,
infancy.
it's yeah, it starts off as this like passionate, like excited
Mm-hmm.
thing. But like true humility and the cure to this is to humble yourself.
Hmm.
And true humility is accepting the position or role that you are in and not downplaying or rejecting it
Hmm.
and accepting and understanding where others are
Hmm.
and understanding that yeah we're all on this journey and like I did learn a lesson, maybe I did actually get a little bit of enlightenment in this area, but it's like you cannot try to do the work for other people. That like humble yourself, pump your brakes. You are not spiritual superman. Like they have to do their own work. I'm not saying we don't like lean on each other, again, when asked for. And you can also pray and send them healing energy. You
Hmm.
don't have to like again lecture them and like drill these like spiritual concepts into their uh what do you call it, like their mentality, you
Hmm.
know, because it's anyways, we have this thing where we're like we want to understand spirituality, but like spirituality is like beyond understanding sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like you know, for me, I grasped a lot of concepts intuitively very quickly, and I was made a leader a lot, and to the point where like I had to learn I did not have to have an answer for everything. To the point like where when someone talks to me, I feel bad if like I don't say something to them. Like, well, at times I did. I don't now because I understand like the healthy part of it. But
Yeah.
at first it felt weird, like someone unloading and like me just like not fixing their problems for them.
Right.
And I was just like, I could fix all of this for you, but like that's not what you need. You need
Right.
healing. And so what I'm doing is I'm recognizing the energy in the room and I'm releasing that healing.
Hmm.
And Yeah. I mean, even to this day, sometimes people will just be going through it and I'm just like, yeah. And that just feels so insensitive sometimes because it's to the point where, like, sometimes I don't know what to say anymore because I'm not having to sit there preparing to fix them, you
Yeah,
know? I mean,
yeah.
granted, I would know what to say if need be, but, um,
Well, I think in situations like that, because I know what you're talking about, like
mhm.
sometimes I'm like, God, I don't even know what to say to this person. But like, I take
Because,
that,
like, you understand the bigger picture. You're like, it's
right.
not worth saying.
Well, that too, but
Sometimes,
all
sometimes, guys,
some
sometimes it's worth saying.
for me, I take it as a sign like, okay, if spirit wanted me to say something right now, they would put it in my heart and mind to say it. And the fact that
Yes.
I'm kind of like on at a loss for words almost, and it's not
Mm,
coming to me
yeah,
naturally, means
that's
this
right.
isn't a moment to say something.
That's so true.
And you're 100% right on true humility kind of being the antidote for this spirituality or the spiritual narcissism because another part of spiritual narcissism is, understanding that my way and my path and the things that I've learned intellectually, and even my own experience isn't necessarily the experience of others.
Yeah.
And just because it worked for me, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for that person. So, when I'm having one of those moments of like being at a loss for words or something like that, I basically take it as like the only thing that I have to offer this person right now is my empathy and is my
Yeah.
kindness. And I'm going to sit here and be present with this person because anything that comes out of my mouth, it's not going to help them. Either they're not ready to
Yeah.
hear it or we don't have shared experiences or whatever that
Mm-hmm.
is. And just like you were talking about, is accepting the role that I'm in and understanding, like not downplaying it or upplaying it, but
Yeah.
understanding like I am not God. God is
Yeah.
within me, but I cannot save or help. Like I'm not the Messiah.
Yeah.
Like I can't save or help every single person that comes to me, but I can be
Well, it's not your
loving.
purpose.
Right,
Accept your
exactly.
role. Yeah,
Exactly.
you
And
know?
but I can be loving, kind and tolerant toward them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and then talking about spiritual bypassing, there's been moments in my life where like I do see like what's actually at play and I'm like I know they're just exhausted from going through life and they're getting wrapped up in fear and they're feeding fear and it's causing them to spiral and there's times where like it's not spiritual narcissism just say hey stop it you're feeding fear cut it out change let's talk about something else because sometimes you need a good friend to like snap you out of it
Mm,
but like a perfect stranger or like a random minister you meet like
right.
out and about or like visiting a church or a temple or at a retreat of some sort of spirituality just be like oh no you're just wrapped
Yeah,
up
or
in
a life
fear
coach
yeah a
or
life coach that
like
tells you you're wrapped up in a what is it a poverty mentality or
yeah,
like
yeah. Oh,
a
those are
fear
some.
of lack that's
Yes.
manipulation
Yes. So I actually have some examples of spiritual
yeah
bypassing. And again, these are these spiritual platitudes that avoid, downplay, or minimize one's own suffering and pain or another person. So, y'all have probably heard these examples like, you're responsible for your own suffering,
yes I've heard that
it's your own bad karma. You chose this. You manifested this. It is your own bad thinking that has
oh
attracted a
my
bad situation.
god
Your thoughts create your reality. Now, here's the thing. If you guys have dabbled in New Thought or even Christian Science, this is very common. And that does not mean that these concepts are not true. As a matter of fact, a lot of them are true, but it's the delivery. So, for
yeah
example, my mother, someone who, most of the time lives in a fear based mentality, someone who is a workaholic,
okay
is not walking the spiritual path, someone who's just trying to make her way through this world and has a lot of suffering in her life. I'm not going to go up to her after she's had a bad day at work and say, well, you created that. Your thoughts create your own reality.
yeah
That's absolutely unacceptable.
that's hateful too like
That's
check yourself
exactly. And it doesn't make any sense because at the core of any spiritual practice is altruism, which is helping others, and humility. So obvious, and empathy. Obviously, that is none of those things. So even though the whole thoughts create your reality is a real thing, it's not even pseudoscience. It's
yeah
your mindset creates your reality.
hmm
Um, Even though that's true, it doesn't mean that that's okay to say to somebody.
Yeah, or to write it off as like the core reason. Like we don't understand. Like
Exactly.
we know this as professional in the light working industry, but industry, why did I say it like that? Field. Um,
Yes.
we know this, but like 75% of our thoughts are not our own anyways. We're being manipulated. So it's the ones we choose to feed. So yeah, technically that's true, but also like, were you being attacked?
Right.
Were you being attacked when you were down?
Right.
Like you may have chose to feed it, but it's not like you were just like living your best, strongest spiritual health life and all
Ex-
of a sudden you just manifested chaos.
That's exactly right, because a lot of the time this stuff is on a subconscious level. So
Exactly.
even though this concept is true, people aren't going around going, "Oh yes, I want bad things to happen to me. I want to break my
Sorry.
leg and I want to be in poverty and I want to do." No, this is all subconscious. So you can't go up to someone and start talking about things that are in their subconscious that they don't really understand and expect them to respect you as a spiritual healer or someone who's of a spiritual essence, because really what we need to do is understand it's kindness, love, compassion, and empathy first and foremost.
Yeah.
And also understanding like the venue, almost like reading the room, doing that to people that you're talking to. If there is levels of conversation that I allow myself to have with different people, with Chosen, we talk about literally everything. Nothing's off the table.
Nothing, honey, let me tell you.
Yes, we talk about everything because, we're almost on like even playing fields. And I know that there's nothing that I could say to Chosen and he would judge me for it.
Oh my God,
And I hope he
literally.
feels the same way. However,
100% feel the same way, just so we're clear.
however,
For the record.
I don't talk about the same things that I do with Chosen with my mother because she would freak the hell out. Do you see what and not just from like like a funny
But
haha
also
kind of
like,
way.
but also are we not doing the right thing by not telling these people this? Because let me rephrase this. If we make them aware, they're then responsible for something they're not prepared to be responsible for.
Exactly.
Because that is quantum physics.
Yep.
When we make them, and I feel the chills, so I know this is spirit, but um, if we, oh my God, is there like a chainsaw outside? That sounds crazy. If we make them aware of something, they're all of a sudden we are making them
Yes.
responsible for something they're not prepared to sustain.
Yeah.
Like they have to do the inner work. They have to get that infrastructure in place so that when they're met with the outside world, they don't crumble underneath that weight.
Yes.
Even the Bible, Jesus said it's better for you not to have known this.
Yes. All of these things, the 7 spiritual traps, are symptoms of spiritual psychosis.
Did Jesus say that? Hold on, wait. You guys, I may have misquoted. I know it's in the scripture for sure, but my brain is dead today. I believe it was Jesus. If it wasn't, it's definitely in there. I'll Google it so you know, but keep going.
So all of these 7 spiritual traps, which we're going to have to go over the rest of them at probably next week or something. We're not going to be able to get through all of them because I have so much to say. We both do on them. But all of these things are symptoms of spiritual psychosis. And, the best way to avoid spiritual psychosis is to understand these traps, not walk the spiritual path in a vacuum. So having somebody who you can kind of bounce things off of and keep you in check. And keeping empathy, kindness, compassion at the forefront of your mind and seeking true humility and altruism. If you're constantly connecting with the source, connecting with God, connecting with your higher self, then, if that's what you're aligning with every day truly and trying to set aside your ego, we can't really go wrong. But as multifaceted beings, like our ego will interject sometime and intercede. So it's always good to have someone like call you out on that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so spiritual psychosis can be really ugly. And back to what Chosen was saying, like, it happens most often when these spiritual axioms and spiritual platitudes and truths are brought into the consciousness before the person was ready. And these big spiritual things are not digested slowly and at the proper time. See, spirituality is a journey. And because our society is so left-brained, We have really intellectualized spirituality, and the search is good. And we should be researching and moving forward on this path and learning new things, and it's amazing. But we tend to fall down these rabbit holes where if we don't have a leash on us, if
Mm-hmm.
we don't have someone holding our hand, it's like, where'd you go, man? And pulling us back up out of the hole, we have a tendency to go into psychosis. And
Yeah.
I have even heard and seen that this type of thing will send people literally to the mental health hospitals,
Mm-hmm.
because they're digesting. And like you said, is that actually in the scripture? Because that
Oh,
makes a lot of
so
sense.
so yeah, so I was correct when I was like, is that did Jesus say that? He didn't say it was one of the apostles in Second
Okay.
Peter. And what they talk about is basically it's better for you not to know the way of righteousness and then turn your back on it
Mm,
because then you're still responsible for like the truth of it, you know? It's
right.
better for you not to know. And we can take that, and I'm not saying we should add our meanings to scripture, but we can take the concepts because I mean I don't have the Greek and not the Greek, the Hebrew, Greek, and Aramaic pulled up right now,
Right.
but um, there's no telling what that verse actually says, but the
Right.
concept is there, and it's like it's better for you not to know the truth, and then to not be able to either turn your back on it willingly or to not know what to do with the truth. Like we can still take that and know that, and apply it to situations like this. We can glean wisdom from it. It's and you know quantum physics is what we're talking about. Like you shouldn't, if you know that your thoughts create your reality, or that you're responsible for what you're manifesting, then all of a sudden you're going to remember that every time you're thinking about something or
Mm,
something's going bad, and then you're going to feed what's going bad and
mm,
manifest more of it. Like
right.
it's better for you not to know for your own sake until
Yeah.
you're ready to comprehend it, because then you're responsible
Right.
after that, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Especially that one's a really good one because I've seen that one going around a lot. The thoughts create your reality thing. If you don't know the mitigation tactics or the
mhm.
solutions to that, how to work with that axiom, you're in trouble.
Yeah, 100%.
100%. And the solution, if you don't understand what, like, I call it conscious living or conscious editing, nullifying your thoughts. When you start to live in that way of understanding that, you need to learn how to do affirmations.
Hmm.
You need to be consciously aware of your thoughts, consciously aware of your words, and you start bringing a totally new level of awareness to yourself
Yeah.
during your daily life, and that can really throw off your groove. That can really throw off your day. And in my opinion, if you don't have a solid connection with spirit or a solid connection with meditation, at least, that is going to really almost supercharge the conscious mind, and it can make you go a little bit nuts
It
because you're
can.
going to start having a hyper awareness of your conscious daily thinking. And unless you understand how to nullify, mitigate, and correct that thinking, or have some sort of solution like meditation or prayer to counteract those thoughts, you're not going
Hmm.
to know what to do with them, and you're just going to walk around being hyper aware of your thoughts and not know how to change them.
Yeah,
What
and
good is that?
yeah,
Yeah,
spiritual psychosis.
absolutely. That's how it gets started.
Yeah.
And it's a real thing, unfortunately.
And
And
I'm gonna go so far to say is I believe that it's because we're opening up channels very quickly, and we're not doing the work. And when we talk about doing the work, you guys, we're talking about like working through this stuff, going inward, working through the stuff that comes up when you choose to make a change in your life, all the turmoil, processing that energy out, um, doing the work, opening up these channels, but like educating yourself, learning spiritual principles behind it, and how to take care of yourself spiritually and feed your spirit body. But I think it can. I'm going to go so far to say is when we open up things way too fast, there are lower vibrational energies that will feed off of your energies and what you're going through, and like I said earlier, 75% of our thoughts are not our own anyways.
yeah.
So they'll just be putting thoughts in your head to make you feel certain things to then
Mm,
feed off of it. And that's what we call an attachment. It can, well, it starts off like that because they get in through the mind, but then it becomes an attachment. And then all of a sudden, like, if you're not careful, it can, you know, it can lead to bad places.
yeah. I do believe that that is absolutely a possibility when we start to open up, because again, it's
Just throw
this.
open those doors.
Right, it's
Yeah.
the doors of awareness.
Yeah.
And when we start to be aware consciously of our thoughts, like, it's the microcosm and the macrocosm. When we're aware of something other than what's going on out in front of us, we start to be inwardly aware. Who's to say that doesn't translate dimensionally? So
Mm-hmm.
we start to be aware of the astral realms. We start to be aware of all of these different realms with that. So
Yeah.
100%, that can And this isn't to frighten or scare anyone,
Definitely
but
not.
it's definitely like things to look out for. And I think that finding a mentor should be kind of the main takeaway here, or even considering finding a therapist, a sympathetic therapist, beginning your spiritual journey, or talking to
Mm-hmm.
a spiritual authority, whether it be a pastor, something like that, through this, to kind
Yeah.
of like make sure you're staying on the right track. And again, having a solid, I believe this is how I did it. Okay, I'm going to be honest with you guys, like I did not go get a therapist through this. Okay,
Yeah.
I had a whole host of friends. I'm very blessed to have a lot of friends that were on the same journey with me that kept me in check. But the main thing that really helped me was every day having a practice, and we're going to get into that a little bit later. That's actually one of the spiritual traps is spiritual escapism or tourism, but it's having a daily practice where this isn't all mental. I'm putting all of this stuff into real world shit now. Oops, excuse me.
It's okay, you guys. We're grown ups.
Real world stuff.
We love spirit, but we cuss a little.
Yeah, we do a little bit. Bringing down those abstract spiritual concepts, understanding them intellectually, that's fine, but actually putting them into practice, and having a practice of connecting with spirit, having a solid prayer foundation helps, and also understanding, doing work with myself, understanding empathy, kindness, compassion, and unconditional love, and studying, understanding, and living in those topics. Those are the main things that allowed me to navigate the spiritual space. The first thing I started to understand and study was what I call the key to life. And I believe that unconditional love is the key to life. That's the first thing. That was my first initiatory step into the spiritual realm. Before I did the tarot, before I did craft, before I did anything else, the first step was understanding what unconditional love was and
Absolutely.
learning to live in unconditional love, and what does that look like in every
Mm-hmm.
aspect of my life. That's what's kept me on track.
Yeah, in my course, that's what we go over first. It's
Yep.
like I want you to research what is unconditional love. Matter of
Yes.
fact, I just parted ways with this person, but one of my former friends and mentors, and God bless them. I hope they find everything that they need. But um, that's one of the things they did on the first few episodes of not episodes, the first few lessons of their course. Is they did the same thing. It's looking at unconditional love. And a minute ago, I thought the same thing, and I meant to write it down. We were talking about awareness.
Mm.
This is why people tell you to seek God all the time. It's focus on God
Yes.
and focus on perfect love. Getting to if you're aware of them first,
Mm.
what you're actually doing is you're bringing your alignment, your frequencies, your vibrations, whatever you want to call it. You are coming into alignment with that state of being, and that's going to actually do so many more things than you can imagine. It's going to keep a lot of the nasty stuff away because the higher and more pure the frequency is always going to win out. And so those lower vibrational entities can't withstand it for long, and they'll either leave or they have to transmute. And I'm not saying it's always like an intelligent energy.
Right. It
What
could
I,
be like lower vibration, it
it,
could be depression,
Yes,
anxiety,
absolutely. And it can't
intrusive
withstand the
thoughts.
presence of love. It
Exactly.
can't withstand the presence of joy and gratitude. And, that's why the Bible talks about like entering into the gates of heaven through, entering into his presence through the gates of thanksgiving and praise. It's because when we do that, we're activating something in ourselves. We're saying, no, we're stirring our spirits. We're pulling ourselves out of whatever we're going through, and we're coming into alignment with those things. And God, I feel like a preacher. But anyways,
No, I love that.
but this is also why they a lot of people talk about shielding at first when they're like, "What do you
Mm.
want to learn first?" They always say protection and shielding. The reason being is because you're opening up these pathways, and it's like the more you fan that flame and build it, the more you're going to attract attention. And if you're not coming into alignment with perfect love, because you're dealing with all this other BS you've
Mm.
been through in life and this trauma and dealing with heartache, and you don't feel like being happy and go
Mm-hmm.
lovey for everyone. Um, they're talking about shielding because it protects you a little bit and also can kind of control some of that energy that you're picking up all the time, so you can think for yourself.
Yeah, that's
Um,
another thing we should just do a whole episode on unconditional love after
yeah,
this.
absolutely.
Because for real, this is like the preparatory. I believe this new student of the spiritual journey should be aware first and foremost of the 7 spiritual traps, because that's protection in and of itself. Once we're
Mm-hmm.
aware of it, we understand how to spot it. We can, self-diagnose and realize, okay, I need to pivot. And then the
Yeah,
second thing, these should be taught, I believe, in tandem, is unconditional love.
yeah.
Because that is, identifying the problem before it even happens and then staying in the solution.
Mm-hmm.
And what you were talking about, like frequency wise, that's how I explain it to my students too, but it doesn't sound that pastory, like you were saying.
Stop. I didn't mean
No, no,
to.
no, I get
I
it.
caught myself. I
What
was like, ooh, here we
I
go.
call it, the way I explain it is like a radio station. So like we are radio stations, and you know, on
That's
a radio station we have all these different frequencies, right? Like down here it's 94.5. That's like alternative rock. I love that station. And the
she
country
sure does. That's a good one too.
the country station is like 100.3, right? So if I want to listen to 94.5, I can't simultaneously listen to 100.3. So if my radio tuner is tuned into 94.5, like 100.3 isn't coming in. It basically doesn't even exist, okay? Because it's not on the same frequency. I can't listen to both at the same time. I can't get them coming in clear. So, like, that's the same thing happening here. Like, if I'm vibrating on the frequency of love, for example, LOVE, 94,
Hmm.
whatever, okay?
Yeah.
If I'm on that frequency, I'm not gonna, you know, the anger, you know, depressions, like all these other like low vibrational entities, things like that,
Yeah.
spirits, whatever you want to call them, demons. I don't care. I'm
Yeah.
with you.
Well,
You know what I
demons are
mean?
a certain level of them low vibrational spirits, but keep going.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So like all of this stuff that's not productive to what we're trying to do is not for our
Yes.
highest good. Like it can't withstand that frequency that we're on.
Yeah, and I also tell that I use that same one a similar example when I'm teaching, people how to tap in with their spiritual senses, their clairs, their psychic ability, their mediumistic ability. It's like radio waves, internet, cell phone signals, text messages, TV, like all that stuff is literally flying through the air through us right now, and we're
Yeah.
not tuned in because we're not attuned to those frequencies,
Right.
but they're still there.
Hmm.
And so one of the things that I think about is there's a Christian radio station here in Texas called KSBJ, and they do this like at the start of the new year. They always do this like challenge where they're like, just listen to us for 1 month, and if your life doesn't feel different, like that's fine. And like it's free. They're not
Yeah, it's
earning
like a
anything from
challenge or
that.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, other than like, there's advertisements and like, more listeners obviously, like it's better for them. But like the point is that you're coming into alignment, you're raising your vibration, and it's almost it's clearing your energy almost. And it's not just brainwashing. Like it's not just like brainwashing you to think that like, Christianity is the way. Like people who are not Christians listen to KSBJ
Mm.
because they literally can feel a difference.
Mm. Mm.
And so it's just like what you're saying. It's being in alignment with love. Um, yeah. Anyways, we have a choice what we can be in alignment with, you guys. We're always, 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 always going to teach this to my students. It's either you're aligning with love and everything that comes from it, or you're aligning with fear. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is anxiety, depression, ADHD, OCD, and their possible links to psychic, empathic, mediumistic, spiritual abilities. So again, we cannot prescribe or diagnose for the 20th time, but there have been professionals in the mental health field that have, they've told me along my way, again, that mentor I mentioned earlier, she's had similar
Mm.
experiences. And I know other people that have too, but I can't think of them. Regardless, they'll come and they'll be like, I've been working with this client for X amount of time, and like, all of a sudden they're better, and they said it's because they spent some time with you. And I'm not necessarily saying that this is the case for everyone. I'm just saying they'll come and be like, what did you do? And you explain it, and they're like, this is exactly what we've been trying to get them to understand, is that the energy that goes in, like you have to get it out somehow. Like what goes in
100%.
must come out.
Mm.
And they're like, we can't legally say it this way because we'll lose our license.
Right.
And that's why I chose not to become a licensed therapist,
Right.
because I wanted the freedom to talk about this stuff, because it's the reality.
It is a reality. It's a reality that God put doctors and things
Hmm.
on this planet for a reason, and some
100%.
problems have a clinical solution, but it's also a reality that not all problems have a clinical solution, and they need a spiritual solution. We need to
Correct.
understand that's a reality too. So it's not one or the other. It's not spirituality or this. They're not mutually exclusive. You can be both. And again, I'm going to recommend, having some sort of authority that's going to keep you in check and never do anything in a vacuum. So I personally know, a lot of mental health issues, especially addiction, is a really good example that A clinical solution does not always work for people with addictive behaviors, people who are
Mm-hmm.
going through addiction. A lot of people need a spiritual solution to that problem, and they only find sobriety or recovery through that. That's a real thing. So, same thing can be said with people's anxieties or depressions. Yes, could it be a clinical depression? Absolutely. But can it be a spiritual issue where it could be, again, empathic ability, psychic
Yeah,
ability, things like that?
unhinged
100%.
empaths.
Yeah, I mean, that's a real thing. I know that for me it was, I don't have clinical anxiety, clinical depression. Mine has to do with energy absorption. And the reason why I know that is because when I started doing Epsom salt in the shower, when I started understanding and transmuting that energy, well, wouldn't you know it, I got better.
Yeah.
So it's like I needed a spiritual solution to the things that I was
Yeah,
going through.
cleansing, you taking control,
Right.
owning your energy.
Yeah, the best thing I would say to do though in these cases is to never take anyone's word for it and follow your own discernment, intuition, and play it safe and go get yourself checked out.
100%.
Yeah,
Always, always get
you
yourself
know,
checked
if
out.
your ears are ringing chronically, sure, I guess that could be clairaudience, but at the same time, it can also be tinnitus, and it could be a sign
Yeah.
of high blood pressure. Go to the doctor.
Yeah,
Go
for sure.
see.
Go
Check
get
it
checked.
out.
It's better to be safe than
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, I mean, and again, like the anxiety, the depression, things like that. And guys, this is somebody who deals with anxiety and depression.
Mm.
Um, I can promise you that a lot of the times, there are people that are, like I said a minute ago, I'm jokingly, lovingly joking when I say unhinged empaths. All I mean is that we don't really know how to, no one's taught us how to
Right.
control the flow of energy
Yeah,
that
you
we're
don't
picking
learn that
up.
in public school.
Yeah, no one teaches that in the Western Hemisphere that I know of. Most of the world that I know of, they don't teach energy, um, owning it and controlling it and manipulating it and getting a regulation on the flow. But like we're picking up energy from everything as empaths. And like, here's the deal. We're not going to dive into like a full explanation on what it is. If you guys are interested in learning about that, I have a course. Lux has a course. We also both offer private sessions. You can go to our websites and check that out. You don't have to come to us. We can refer you out to someone else if you want. Like, this is not a cash grab. It's just like we don't have the time to dive into it. But I just want to sum it up this way. We are constantly having energy flow through us and get stuck in us. And if we don't know how to establish a connection to an external source of energy to regulate that flow,
Mm-hmm.
and if we don't know how to get a control on it and shield or protect or kind of block some of that flow sometimes, we can very well end up sick. We can very well end up manifesting pain and depression
Nausea,
and
depression,
yeah,
yeah.
all that stuff. And this is somebody who knows this and still deals with this on time to on occasion because like I'm so busy sometimes I forget to do
Mm-hmm.
my daily practice, and that's what we're always telling you: daily practice. It's not, excuse me, it's not so you don't become a weak witch or a weak mystic.
Mm-hmm.
It's not because we want you to become the most powerful magician you can, like which we totally do, like live your best life, but um, it's because we want you to be healthy. We
Yeah.
want you to find healing and wholeness, and um, even just take an incense stick around your whole body every day can help cleanse your aura. Spend 10 to 15 minutes in the sun.
Yeah.
That'll cleanse your aura.
Plenty of fresh water.
Fresh water. And here's another thing about
Good
water. We talked about
foods.
this earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Water is healing, but it can also be an activator.
Yeah.
So be intentional. One of the best things that you can do is visualize a cleansing light as you're in the shower. But if you stand on some Epsom salt in the shower, which Lux mentioned a minute ago, like something about that Epsom salt being a crystal and like all its healing properties, it like helps really suck that
Oh,
stuff
it
out of you
does.
and like just goes
Real
right down the
thing.
drain. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and if you can take a bath in it, it's even better. But what
Yes.
I have found, and you're vegan for, we've both been kind of off meat for a while
Yeah.
now.
And it's funny because the deeper I got into spirituality about like I would say 6-ish years
Yeah.
ago, because I've been doing this for about 10 years, you guys, but like you never arrive. You go deeper and deeper, and sometimes you feel more shallow. But
Yeah.
but like I noticed, like I would just wake up and just be like, ugh, like I just did not want
Yeah.
that stuff. It's funny though. It's not that I didn't want processed food like junk food. I just
Mm-mm.
didn't want like meat, dairy, or animal products at
Mm.
all.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the intuitive, like eating intuitively that like
Yeah,
naturally comes. Yeah, quitting meat has really helped me. And then I also take ashwagandha supplement
same.
daily.
Yeah.
That's really helped me as
It's so
well.
funny because we both started that and didn't know the other one
Yeah.
started.
Oh, what I will say is we cannot prescribe or diagnose.
Absolutely
So
not.
always either check with your doctor, or if you're on any medications, like do not mix herbal. Don't underestimate herbal medication. Like it's a
Oh,
thing. If you're
100%.
already on pre-existing medication, like check with your doctor before getting on a supplement.
And I will tell you this, I told my doctor, I was like, I'm not willing to sacrifice other parts of my health. Like for instance, I want to have a healthy, passionate relationship one day, and like I don't want to completely destroy my sex drive or like other emotions or like just be chronically happy.
Mm,
Like I want to be able to authentically feel. I'm not saying that people who are on medication don't, because I was on medication for years, daily. But I just want to tell you guys about my experience. Like when I was like, no, like Spirit kept telling me like try ashwagandha for about a year, and I just wouldn't. And like I had taken it years before because I had, um, oh, here's another thing I can tell you. Thank you, Spirit. I had adrenal fatigue. My body literally was shutting down because I was not owning the energy I was literally like channeling through. Like my
mm.
whole body was about to shut down. The first crystal I was ever drawn to, a lot of you asked me on my live videos and in my pictures and my post, what crystal are you wearing? It's aqua aura quartz. It helps with all of those things I just mentioned. It takes any energy that comes at you and transmutes it and adds it to your power base. It is my favorite crystal. And it's I wasn't even into crystals before I found it. But that's a whole nother story. My point is that um, back to the medication, when I came off of it and I decided, okay, I'm going to try ashwagandha, I was able to cold turkey quit my medication that normally would give people brain zaps and withdrawals from, and switch to ashwagandha the same day. And I felt wonderful. Now, here's the deal, I didn't just do that like crazy. I'm not saying you do that. Don't ever quit something cold turkey. I just happened to be out of medication and I was like, I'm not paying for this.
Right.
So, um, anyways, I talked to my doctor and I was like, hey, I've started taking ashwagandha. I didn't get the other prescription picked up. And he was like, he had me do like the quiz and everything. He was like, you're doing better. He was like, okay. He's like, like these things can work. He said, the only thing is like, we legally can't say that they are good because there's not enough research done on them. Like they haven't done it like on in
Clinical
like
trials.
in like huge clinical trials. They've done clinical trials. They
Mm-hmm.
know because they base modern medications
Mm.
off of these natural
Right.
medications. Um, but he was just like, I'm gonna check back in with you in a couple months just to see how you're doing. He said, but I'm so happy that this is working, and I've been off of them ever since, you guys. This was like earlier this year, actually, like
Mm.
around like end of February, March. Was really going through some stuff, so I was like, something's got to change. But anyways, so just to let you know, like some doctors are supportive. Don't be afraid to be like, I want to try herbal medicine. They're not going to think you're some hippie freak, and if they do, then you're talking to the wrong doctor because hippie freaks are amazing.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, so as Lux said, we are going to be doing a couple of other parts. I don't know if it's going to be two more parts, three or four more parts, but we're going to be recording them, and we have lots more to talk about on this subject, and we'll be posting them again here and over on the Joy of Metaphysics podcast with Lux Intuitive Therapy. You can find that everywhere, and yeah, be on the lookout. I don't know if they'll come in sequential order. It may not be every week. Like we'll be maybe record them pretty quickly, but they may be spaced out because I do have some fun interviews coming up with you guys, including one with Lux here. I'm gonna ask her a bunch of like cutesy questions that I did in the second episode of this season. And yeah, was there anything you wanted to talk about before we wrapped up?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, I feel like this was really productive.
Yeah.
This was fun.
Yeah, it
God,
was.
I missed you.
I missed you too.
Okay, we should just do this all the time. Okay, great. Thanks. All right. So, love you guys. Sending you so much love. Don't forget, you can go to christianwitchhtx.com to find me everywhere, to find my services. If you don't want to come to me and want me to refer you out, I will. Also, the Elysium Academy of Mystical Arts winter cycle starts January 26th, I believe. It's a Thursday. And there's only so many spots I have open for people. So, if you're interested, let me know. Do not let money be the barrier. Talk to me. I'm willing to work with people on a case by case basis. And again, this is not like trying to get anybody to sign up. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I just don't want to answer 50 emails later about this. So, for those of you listening, if you want to join, you can join anywhere in the world. If you can't make it to the live classes, they're recorded. But I'd love to have you. And if not, no big deal. Just wanted to let you know it's launching. And then if you're going to go find all of Lux Intuitive Therapy, options. I think it's, what is it, intuitivetherapybyLux.com?
No, it's luxintuitivetherapy.com.
There
So
we
I have
go.
all of my services on there listed, and you can even schedule an appointment online now because I got that up and going. I
Ooh,
know, right?
fancy.
Fancy. Yeah.
Baller.
And then I have Intuitive Therapy by Lux Facebook page. I post all the time there, and my Instagram at Lux Intuitive Therapy. And then I used to be on TikTok, but I've just like strayed from TikTok. So
She'll be back on TikTok though once she gets over it. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I don't know. She may. I don't know.
yeah, I think I'm just gonna maybe do lives on TikTok, but I also have my podcast as well, and this will be posted there. It's The Joy of Metaphysics. It's on YouTube, Apple, Spotify. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
also on my website. If you're there, just take a little peek at it.
Yeah, no, for sure. Go do it. And here's the deal. Lux and I are really friends in real life, and we live in a similar area. And so a lot of the times, we work together sometimes when we get stuck. So don't, if you feel drawn or torn between the both of us, like feel free to be like, hey, like I don't know what I need. And maybe we can help you. We can come up with something or we can refer you to someone else. Who knows if we listen, we don't know all the answers.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, okay, I'm gonna let you guys go. Love you so much. Lux loves you more than I do. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. I love you guys. But yeah, okay, I'm gonna quit rambling. I'm gonna get some caffeine in me and hopefully feel better. I'm so excited. This episode's gonna be going up pretty quick. And yeah, next week we're gonna be doing an interview. Is it Lux? Is it not? Is it Psychic Sean? I don't know. Is it? Who knows? One of the two. We'll figure it out. I cut you off when you were saying bye. You can say bye
Bye, guys.
now.